all crazy.
All right. Welcome to Sekhet-Maat Oasis, Qabalah 101 class. I'm Frater Audeo, or Dan. This is
Soror Luz-y.
Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law.
Love is the law. Love under will. Welcome to Sekhet-Maat OTO. We are offering these free classes for your enjoyment on the YouTubes. If you like our content, please hit the like button. And if you want to get more content, subscribe and do the notification thing. We upload content every week, and there's lots of stuff on our channel, so check it out. Oh, and a suggested donation of $10 would be really helpful for us to continue doing this work. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
You want to do yours?
My regular disclaimer is that basically I may say things differently than the way you say them. I may use correspondences differently than the way you say them. I am not a Hebraic scholar. I am just a student on the path, and I look up the information and I share it with you, and we kind of learn together. So if I say something that offends you, let that be your will. Hopefully not, but if it does, it's up to you. And other than that, we'll get started today on the 20th path. All right, I'm going to start today with a meditation on Yod, and it's from the Book of Tokens, just because there's so much good information in a short little poems that I just thought I would include it today. So, I am the creative hand which fashioneth the worlds and establishes the spheres, while yet the primal fire circleth untrammeled in the womb of space. That fashioning is not as the handiwork of man. It is my utterance through the voice of vision. By it I declare myself. Yea, I utter myself as the father of all, and from my fatherhood is the brotherhood of all creatures. Therefore do the wise see in the letter Yod the fatherhood of Chokmah, the unbounded wisdom which establisheth all. The Father, Ab, am I, the source of all, one in mine inmost being, two in my self-utterance, and three in my union with my divine manifestation, creating, preserving, transforming throughout endless ages. From my presence do all things derive their substance. From my power all movement beginneth. And my wisdom is the foundation of all knowing. Therefore is Yod the foundation of all the letters, and every letter exhibiteth Yod in its formation. By these 22 letters is the circle of creation described. I am the fluid darkness, which is the ink wherewith I inscribe myself upon the scroll of manifestation. Verily, the writing of this book of being telleth no new thing. They understandeth aright who say with Solomon that beneath the sun is nothing new. Of whatsoever is, thou mayest say with truth, it was. Hence is the vision of the prophet, which seemeth to pierce the veil between what is and what is yet to come. In truth, a recollection of that which seemeth to belong to the past. My hand holdeth the whole circle of being, and for me, time is not. I am the link between Chesed and Tifereth, combining the waters of substance and the air of life. I measure the bound, the Ruach, which hath its place in the path of the mediating and influence. Because I am the intelligence of will, which carrieth the water of mercy into the sphere of beauty. I am 10, yet from me proceedeth the 20. From I am 10 ineffable, and 10 manifested in creation. Therefore is Yod both 10 and 20. And 10 made manifest are also 7, and these are the Elohim. These 7 bring forth 10 again. For the heptad, which is below the supernal triad, completeth itself in the kingdom of the bride. For tenfold is my self-utterance, and therefore is it written the lights of emanation. 10 and not 11, 10 and not 9. There's a lot of meaning wrapped up in that. Highly recommend the anything by Paul Foster Case as far as Qabalah goes. It's some of the best, and the correspondences of classes are second to none, and so is the information in there. There's a lot of Kabbalistic meaning all tied up in that poem. So we will begin. The 20th path of Yod is the intelligence of will, and is so called because it is the means of preparation of all and each created being. And by this intelligence, the existence of the primordial wisdom becomes known. And that was the Westcott version, and this the Kaplan version, which is the more scholarly, rabbinical, but similar. Consciousness of will, sekel ha-ratzon. It is called this because it is the structure of all that is formed. Through this state of consciousness, one can know the essence of the original wisdom. And I think both of those are kind of intimating its relationship with Yod residing in Chokmah, which I'll go ahead and click to the next slide, which is the sphere at your top right of your screen there. Right there with my cursor, the gray sphere. And so Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey, the tetragrammaton is what those are referring to. And the tip of the Yod also extends into Kether. And it kind of is fitting for what we're talking about today, because it's the point, and Yod is one of the primordial, it is the primordial letter which all the letters are formed. Basically, all the Hebrew letters have a Yod in them at some place. So it's kind of the material that all of the letters are coming from. And that was kind of alluded to in the beginning poem as well. It joins Tifereth to Chesed, which is the sphere 6, its center, to the sphere 4 of Hesed right there. Beauty to mercy, or your divine, your HGA to your higher love aspect of yourself. That benevolence, that kindness of justice that happens in Hesed, into the beauty of Tifereth, and the ruach of tying all of these together in its central spot, that being the mediating intelligence that poem was talking about right there. Simply put, the Yod translates as hand or open hand, and it also can be a pointing hand. And one image that comes to mind is, what's it called? The image of when God points down and is giving like a blessing to the world. You've seen it on those pair of shorts that I have.
Oh, we're like it's the touching of the fingers.
Yeah, and the pointing down, or giving the
life, like giving life to the.
But that's
creation,
an
like
intimation
Adam,
of what Yod stands for as well. So it can be open hand, like the palm of the hand, or pointing specifically. The Yod's value is 10. And I'm not sure.
Oh, that's the Hebrew translation.
Oh, yes. And then also for Sorry, the transliteration between the keyboard and what Hebrew comes out on it is different. And so sometimes my notes don't line up. Apologize for that. But 20 is also the value. And you heard about 10 being extended to 20. How does that happen? It's because Yod spelled out is 20. And so you've got Yod Vav Daleth equaling 20. It's also representative of the earth sign Virgo. It's the mystic number is 210. It is, and Virgo specifically is ruled by Mercury, and also Mercury being the little trickster, because you don't see this often. Mercury is also exalted in Virgo, so you don't see that very often. Both having the rulership and the exaltation being the same planet. So kind of cool. And that's Mercury always is kind of breaking the rules a little bit, all the way through Kabbalistic information and astrological. It's similar. It breaks a lot of the rules that the other planets don't. Being the trickster is often associated that he is, or that they are would be a better, because I spoke in a gender when it really, especially when you're talking about Mercury, it's gender fluid, because it is not male or female, but combination thereof.
This is just a tree of life glyph to kind of get a picture of where we're at. We're heading towards Hesed, and all the work that we've done below, all those letters, our path, our meditation that we've done prior, and it's really cool to see it in that glyph like that, just to see how much work has been done so far. So it's really cool.
And I agree, and I'm glad we finally made it towards the end. I
decided to zoom out from the tree of life so that we can see what we've been doing. That's right. No, you did fine.
I know, but I'm still, and I want to also speak on all of the paths that we've done. We've done literally all of the paths of the lower tree, the middle tree. We're working our way out of what's called the Ruach, and that's that central nature that is represented by the letter Vav. The only one we have left to do is Tet, and then we will enter this sphere of Chesed, and then at that point, we're going to be beginning our ascent from the Ruach, or the let me see, archetypal, Briatic, the Yetziratic, up to Briatic, the Briatic world, which is going to be up in this area. It's often associated just with Bina and the Hokmah being Atzluthic, but really it's kind of this circle here of kind of coming down into the lower parts of Qabalah and up into Bina and Hokmah. So at least that's my understanding as well. So, or you can just be hard and fast and say it's only Bina, but I'm going to argue that. And as we say, your mileage may vary. So anyways, all right, some more of the correspondences. Animals, real and imaginary. The Virgin.
Real or imaginary?
Hey, I guess, and it's funny that we joke, but it's really talking about, I don't see that as a sexual connotation of the Virgin, more of the purity aspect, and not that anybody that's not in that fashion not pure, but it more of just the ideal of the untouched, of the and when we get into the card, we'll kind of go over that a little bit more too. So, and the protozoan or an archorite, basically these are things that are solitary, untouched, or like kind of live on their own. or are very unique. We'll keep going with snowdrop, which I believe is really meant to say snowflake, but maybe snowdrop was common in the time this was written. And the individuality of the snowflake, not the fact that there's not, supposedly that they're all unique and individual.
Mm-hmm.
Lily and the narcissus flower are also, those are the plants, and mistletoe and Klamath. I'm not sure which one that one is. I know I did not look it up, I'll be honest. But we just happened to be handed a a bouquet of narcissus flowers just on Friday, which is kind of coincidental and kind of synchronous. Precious stones, diamonds, and cat's eye, and I think you're also the intimating of that purity in a diamond, and that clarity is kind of where that association is coming from. In yellow jasper, not certain where that would come from, as far as it could be the light of Tifereth, the light of the Hermit's lamp, light in general. It could be intimation of the secret work that happens in the intestines, the yellow or the bile. There's a lot of different things that are associated with the idea of Virgo, and one of those is an alchemical thing that happens in our body as we transmute our energy and begin to make changes in our body. There's the milk that is secreted in our glands in our stomach. It changes the energy faster, and it makes our whole body work differently. The more we attain, we go through we are an alchemical vessel, and we're percolating and bubbling, and that's one of the things that occurs. It's the secret force that is represented by Virgo. The magical weapon is the lantern and the wand.
Those are not regular magical wands. Those are Harry Potter wands. It's just
but I liked it. Those are pretty cool wands, though, I must say. If you can zoom in, I don't know if you're on a computer or on your phone, but if you can take a good look at those, they're beautiful wands. If they were real, I'm sure people make finer wands than that, but they're pretty cool looking.
Yeah.
So, I appreciated them. I liked seeing them in the slide set. So.
But there is a chapter on wands in Magic Theory and Practice, and
most definitely.
And you can totally look up some of the
wands
awesome wands that are in there.
It's a representative of will, and the wand is associated with will. You could, oftentimes it's representative of the phallus as well. All of these things that can create, and not that it's the only, but it's that force that creates. So
diurnal force, is that the same?
Yeah. One. Bread and the lotus wand. Bread, I think, is in there before the simple fact of it being an earth sign. Virgo being associated with earth, and bread is always very earthy. Lotus wand specifically, that's Golden Dawn, and that is a magical weapon that it's a beautiful one too, very ornate, and a bunch of all of the colors of the paths are on that, and you ascend it and different energies come out. It's a cool wand as well. It's kind of cool like those, but different. So the lineal figure is Conjunctio. And at this point, I like turning it over to my assistant conspirator, Lucy.
Thank you. So this is a geomantic figure. It can be considered an interaction. Sometimes an image associated with this figure is like a crossroads. The planet is in Mercury, the sign is in Virgo. Those of this figure are intelligent, talkative, and favor luxury. Often they will spend beyond what they can earn. This figure represents contact and unity in everything, and in all opposites come together in all things. The figure alludes to the combination of forces that affect change. These crossing of paths can be favorable or unfavorable depending on the other figures in a reading. Traditionally, a figure of temperance. If looking to connect with something, it is favorable, but needing solitude or segregation, it is not well dignified.
All right. Those are geomantic figures, or relative to geomancy. So incenses, we have narcissus again, both flower and incense, and sandalwood. Vegetable drugs are all not aphrodisiacs, it's the opposites. And
I did, when it came up, when I tried to spell it, it was misspelled. So then that's what came up.
But it's actually, it's the opposite of an aphrodisiac, which would be, sorry, right there, anaphrodisiacs. Apparently, I don't know necessarily what those are either. Like, they joked about saltpeter at one time being added to GI's food, and therefore not being able to perform correctly. I don't know if that was true, or then there was rumors that was even in cigarettes and blah, 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 how bad they were for you, or if that was just all urban myth to try to scare people or what. But in the end, it's to make it so you don't.
I'll just say that I don't know about the army, but yes, saltpeter is very, very definitely used to be in cigarettes because saltpeter burns really well. And if you looked at the old cigarettes, you would see rings around the paper going down the cigarette. Those were rings of saltpeter, and it kept the cigarette burning even if you weren't smoking it. And they've now since gotten rid of that because of the, you're feeding people saltpeter, but as opposed to all the healthy things in cigarettes. But, I used to also use it in incense, in mixing with the herbs and the resins and things that you make the incense out of. You mix saltpeter in and it burns on its own.
I wonder if that's what's in the incense that you like.
Useful purposes for saltpeter.
Yeah. Right on.
Nice. Cool.
There we go. Thank you for that.
And now you know.
And now you know. So in the human body, the back, and specifically in the intestines as well. So like I was speaking on earlier. So disease or spinal weakness and paralysis, psychological attributions or aspects. One is specifically touches the sensation that's associated with this path, and specifically coitus, the enjoyment of touch, or the not, I suppose, at times, if that is your experience. But I think if properly or whatever, anyways, enjoyable for most.
Yourself.
Well, for me. Sure. All right, specifically.
I agree.
So wisdom and will are the other two. In that will being, it's beginning to get onto the aspect of the higher will, the more of the will that resides in Chokmah. It's getting those glimpses there of the actual divine aspect of that desire of something to create something of above the personal will. That's why it's a solitary path, and it's it's treacherous in many varied ways, can knock you off. The magical power and the mystical state, invisibility. Hey, who couldn't use a little invisibility at times? You know, and jokingly, you know, you see the movies and stuff where people can go invisible, but I think more likely it's like an astral cloak where you kind of make yourself a little bit of less noticeable. You kind of put like a cloak on, and that would be a better way to think about that invisibility, or that not that you necessarily disappear into thin air. Maybe some do, you know. There again, your mileage may vary on that, but
Door at the grocery store doesn't open anymore.
Yeah. Initiation and alchemical distillation. That alchemical distillation was kind of what I was alluding to. It was the inner distillation that occurs through the digestion process, but also in alchemy, the Virgo, it relates to distillation in general. So. Yes, now we are into the divine names, Elohim Sabaoth, and we've seen that before. You'll see these being repeated as we go up. And then also there's a specific one to Virgo, and that is Hey Vav Yod. And that could be, you know,
I like that.
or something like that. Play with the sounds. That's what we're supposed to do. And those play with how you put the words together. Practice the Hebrew and see what comes out. The archangel Hamaliel is the archangel. The heaven of Asya is Betula, and Betula, it really is just the Hebrew word that translates to Virgo. So that is what the heaven of Asya is. The legendary order of beings is mermaids. And who doesn't love seeing a mermaid when you're out on the ocean? And banshees. Banshees maybe not so much. Maybe, or maybe so.
Could it be like a crow?
I gotta jump in on the mermaids. Remember that the sirens are a form of the mermaid, and they would sing to the sailors and bring them crashing on the rocks to their death. So similar to a banshee wailing to announce a death is about to occur, you can almost see a mermaid or a siren is singing to announce a death is about to occur. Just the person who's about to die is so in love with the sound that they don't even notice.
Yes, thank you for that. And that's what I was going to follow up with, is that at least they enjoyed their last bit, because supposedly the sirens and the singing of that is very alluring and very captivating, and you can't turn away. And it's because you're in bliss of it to a very dangerous degree. So pretty cool, and not so cool, I guess, but. But hey, if you gotta go, you gotta go. So pantheons, we'll go over now. So the gods, Egyptian, Isis specifically as a virgin, yet not yet the mother Isis, but specifically prior to. In Thelemic, Hadit and Heru Pa-Krat.
Which is Horus as a child, Heru Pa-Krat.
Yeah. Often represented with the sign of silence, given the sign of silence. He's the little brother before Rahar-Kut becomes
the Avenger.
Yes. There you go. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Greek, Demeter, Persephone, Athena, Parthenos, and Attis. Romans are Attis, Ceres, Adonis, and Flora. Hindu, the Gopi Girls.
Sounds like a cool band.
The Lord of Yoga. Actually, both of them could be kind of a cool name for a band, really. but the gopi girls are the ones that would traditionally take care of Krishna. And maybe Makai may want to go on a little bit more if you has anything to share on that.
I was just going to say it's interesting to me because Krishna is associated with music, and he's often pictured blowing a flute, but he's supposed to be like a shepherd. I forget what the exact etymology is. I want to say gopi is related to the word for like cowherd, if that makes sense. So the gopi girls don't follow the same path as like the bacchantes of Dionysus. They're not there to drink and have sex and throw a rowdy party. The gopi girls are there to celebrate music and beauty. And Krishna is supposed to be this. He's depending on which myth you're looking at, he's got wives and consorts and blah, 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 whatever. But he serves that same kind of self-embodied self-possessedness that the goddesses that you've just named have, like Artemis and being, I keep coming back to the word virgin, but it's not the same concept as virgin. It's the idea of like being whole unto yourself and looking within. So the gopi girls aren't all necessarily hanging around waiting to get laid. They're indulging in the music and in being in the presence of Krishna and in taking part in the divine love that is the existence of Krishna. So in that way, it brings me personally back to the hermit, but your mileage may vary.
Thanks.
Thank you for that. I knew you could explain it much better than I could, so I appreciate that. And I appreciate that explanation. Next, we get to the card. And as you see, it's a mysterious card. It's symbol of the sun is in the middle of the hermit. You've got the spermazoan. You've got Ceres. You've got the cherubic egg wrapped by the serpent doing its thing. And you see the hermit kind of peeking in or kind of checking on it to make sure everything is going on. One of the things we didn't talk about is that it's the ninth Atu or ninth key, and 9 being a number of perfection. It's when the series is complete. After it goes to 10, that's the 0 and the 1 coming back together, the manifest and the single point. At 9, everything is finished, everything is completed, it's perfection. Even though there's still an egg there, this card represents a level of completion. And I think that completion could be because of what's already going on inside of that egg, what's already going inside of our body that's creating the new life coming forth, whether that be the new life created within us through our own transformations, or something external, something that we're trying to bring into manifestation. Very powerful key.
And it makes a lot of sense, like when you look at the key and you think about the poem Audeo opened up with, that the father of all, the Ab, and like you just see this kind of like the hermit is kind of just like not only just giving the life with the sperm and the egg there, it's just kind of all coming together, and kind of like that finger thing where God is pointing and touching Adam's finger and giving life and kind of like pushing it forward to existence, like manifestation. It's really cool when you start to see the symbolism and see the progression through the deck of the cards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's sharing a lot of the symbolism of Chokmah being represented here, and that whole poem of a lot of the paths, even though they don't mix as much as this card is mixing. Like it is its path that connects Tifereth to Hesed, but it is often intimating Chokmah, and the Divine Father being in there. So esoteric title is the Prophet of the Eternal, the Magus of the Voice of Power. What cool titles that is. Like, this kind of really rings as the Ancient of Days, which is represented by this as well. You know, the true Magus and the voice of power. Yeah. The breath, the logos, that vibration, you know, everything vibrates, one of the Hermetic principles. So now we'll get into the colors, and the colors were really used in this card very closely. Green and yellowish is the king scale. For the queen scale, you've got a slate gray. The prince scale is a green gray, and the princess scale is the plum color. And you can see all those represented pretty well in that card. So bravo for color usage. All right, and there is Yod spelled out. And like we do all the time, the way you can understand a Hebrew word is spell it with the tarot keys and the Atus. Put them out next to each other and use what you know. Even just looking at the pictures can give you an idea. Even if you don't have all the correspondences down, just take the cards out, put them down, and see what you get. You know, you've got, for me, it's a really, what I see in there is there's that aspect of that eternal fire, or that eternal creation. You've got that spermatozoa, the idea of will, the extension, working through our teacher, our inner guide, the highest aspect, or HGA, and that sperm's transmitted through and goes into the Empress, and the Empress is representative of creativity and of creative visualization, of creation of life. The Empress is said to be pregnant, so it fits really well. On one end you have the sperm, and there you have the egg and the sperm mixed together, and you can almost even see the egg as the middle aspect of the Hierophant as well. You could see that being the container through which that is transmitted into the Empress. So, yeah, there's a lot of different ways you could look at it astrologically. You've got Virgo, you've got Taurus, and you've got Venus. You know, there's many different ways to kind of look at the angles using the tarot keys in order to understand the word Yod. And just can't recommend it enough. Get your keys out, learn them, just meditate, just spend a little time with them, and you'll be well rewarded for your time. All right, I think that wraps up all of the minutia aspect of today's class, unless there was anything that anybody would like to talk about or bring up before we get started on the pathworking or the meditation. All right, and just notice that it is an acorn. There again, representative of a seed, that life force, all being contained in a nutshell. But yeah, I'm here all day. Yeah.
You go, banish. Yeah.
No, go ahead. I've
No,
been
please.
talking enough.
No,
So,
seriously.
all right. Apparently, I'm banishing today. So we'll banish, and then we will do a little breathing, and then we will do our meditation. I was Melchizedek. Hey, hey, hey. Oto Gebur Leolam Adonai. Before me, Raphael. Behind me, Gabriel. At my right hand, Michael. My left hand, Oriel. Before me flames the pentagram, and within me shines the six-rayed star. Ata IX. Melkut, Vigebura, Vigedula, Leolam. Amen. Now begin with a couple of deep breaths, inhaling fully and exhaling with a sigh. Again, inhale fully and exhale with a sigh. Just letting the day fade, the stress of the day. One more deep inhale. Just be present. Now begin to follow your breath. We're going to do a fourfold breath where we inhale for 4, we will hold it for 4, we will exhale for 4, and then we will stay empty for the count of 4. And then we'll start that over. We'll do 5 or 6 cycles of that just to kind of regulate us and kind of get us into the proper space. Start dropping our waves down. So begin with an inhale of 4. Breathe in to a count of 4. Hold to a count of 4. Exhale to a count of 4. Stay empty for a count of 4. Inhale for a count of 4. Hold for a count of 4. Exhale for a count of 4. Stay empty for a count of 4. Inhale for a count of 4. Hold for a count of 4. Exhale for a count of 4. Stay empty for a count of 4. Inhale for a count of 4. Hold for a count of 4. Exhale for a count of 4. Stay empty for a count of 4. Inhale for a count of 4. Hold for a count of 4. Exhale for a count of 4. Stay empty for a count of 4. Now let the counting go. But keep your focus on your breath. Anytime your mind wanders, just bring it back to the breath. Simply watching the breath go in and observe the breath going out. The breath goes in and the breath goes out. Do your best not to manipulate your breath, just be an observer. And when your mind wanders, just bring it back, focusing on your breath. And do this on your own for a minute, and then we'll begin our journey. The 20th Path of Yod. Beginning to formulate the astral temple of Malkuth. The 10-sided chamber materializes around you, calling forth the inhabitants. Adonai Haaretz Sandalphon. Sandalphon appears, and you exchange the sign of the Enterer, and she responds with the sign of silence. She inquires about your purpose in coming to her temple, and you hold up the emblem of the acorn. Sandalphon then quickly leads you through the portal of Tau in the east of the temple and up the 32nd path to the ethereal temple of Yesod, where you're greeted by Gabriel. Gabriel quickly takes you through the sphere of Yesod, up to the path of Samek, to the hexagonal temple of Tiferet, ornamented in golden and yellow. Once inside, we call forth the inhabitants there. Yod-Heh Wahi Elo Vadat Raphael Melachim. The radiant archangel Raphael appears, and he addresses you. You have entered the realm of the Lord of God of knowledge. By what symbol dost thou enter herein? You answer, holding up the acorn, by the symbol of the seed. Raphael is satisfied. The seed is a symbol of life, a symbol of the source of life, containing hidden patterns of potential, manifestation, and latent power. It is a worthy symbol of the path of Yod. Raphael leads you to the yellow-green archway in the east of the temple. On the keystone of the arch is the letter Yod in brilliant white. Within the archway is a veil on which is depicted the tarot card of the Hermit. Raphael traces the sigil of Virgo and parts the veil, exposing a door carved from peridot. Holding up the acorn, you trace it with the letter Yod. The door opens and you commence your journey on the 20th path. The blackness of night looms before you. The path is dimly lit by the crescent moon, and you have a hard time making out the surrounding terrain. The road is very rough and it's hard to maintain your footing. It seems as though the trail is only becoming worse and worse, and soon even the sliver of the moon disappears behind the clouds. After only a short time spent stumbling in the darkness, you fall into a ditch by the side of the path. You sit up, nursing a bruised knee, wondering how you're going to finish this journey. It is pitch black and the road is impassable. Just then, you notice a light off in the distance. A small orb of brightness. At first, you think it is a star in the night sky, but it is too low and the light appears to wobble slightly. It seems to be getting closer as well. Someone is coming up the path towards you, carrying a light. As he approaches, you make out the figure of a tall, mature man in a hooded brown robe, holding a lantern in one hand and a staff in the other. He stops on the path next to you, pulls back the hood of his robe, and reveals a long mane of gray hair and a rugged face framed by a beard of the same color. Setting down the lamp, he extends a strong hand down to help you. You grasp his hand and pull yourself to your feet. You shouldn't go stumbling around blind on the path in the dark, says the man in a gentle, scolding tone. There are all sorts of dangers out in the wilderness at night. You shake the dust off of yourself. Who are you? You ask the man. Just a solitary traveler like yourself, he replies. But you can call me Moshe. I come this way often, looking for those in need of aid like yourself. I can guide you up the path, but you must stay close. You study his face, made leathery by years of sun exposure and animated by a strong inner spirit. You notice two faint areas of light on either side of his head, which radiate outward. They almost resemble horns. The lamp of the hermit illuminates the road before you, and you now see why it is so foolish to proceed in the dark. The trail is full of potholes and sharp rocks. This road is very old and not often traveled, your guide informs you. The light from Moshe's lamp cuts through the inky blackness like a diamond of light. You could say that I've lived many lives and walked many paths in one lifetime. I was raised as a prince in ancient Egypt, where I learned the arts of theurgy, or god working, and Heka, or magic. but I was Hebrew by birth. One day I killed a man, an Egyptian overlord, and had to flee to the land of Midian. I was a fugitive. But I married the daughter of a priest and settled down to live the life of a simple shepherd, tending flocks of sheep. But that was not the path that destiny had chosen for me. One day, I was looking for the good pasture when I came to saw the base of the mountain. There I saw the most amazing sight. I saw a tree that was on fire, surrounded with a halo of burning white light. And yet the leaves of the tree were not consumed by the flames. And I heard a great loud voice telling me that I was standing on holy ground. This voice identified itself as the God of my ancestors, the God of whom we had been known as El Elyon, and the God Most High, and El Shaddai, Almighty God. This voice identified itself now as Yahweh, who brings into being. It was then that I knew I was in the very presence of pure deity. How can I express what I experienced? There are no words to describe it in terms that another can understand. I was in the company of what some have called the Logos, the first self-created word of God, whose utterance created the universe. From that point on, I was a changed man. The voice of Yahweh told me that I must lead the Hebrew people out of Egypt. How could I do that? I asked the deity. How could I lead my people? I was learned in the ways of Egyptian magic, and I knew the sacred practices and beliefs of my own forefathers. But I did not feel qualified to take on such a task. I was no leader, and I was no priest. I was a murderer, a wanted man. I begged not to be chosen for this task. Surely there were greater spiritual leaders, more accomplished magicians than I. I pleaded with the deity to select another. Yahweh would not hear of it. You must go, Moshe, the deity told me. I know your heart is true. I know your soul is humble. I will not choose a leader who claims higher celebrity or greater spiritual accomplishments. Are not the countenance of darkness fallen with kings? It is not by proclamation of honors and dignities that one may claim to be my representative. I have chosen you not because of your words, titles, nor even your deeds, but because your heart is just and merciful. You will be wise and an even-handed ruler. So with the blessing of Yahweh, I went to Egypt and insisted that Ramses release the Hebrew people from their bondage. Eventually, he complied, and I led my people out of the land of Shem and into the wilderness of Sinai. The journey across the desert was long, harsh, and difficult, but eventually I brought the people to Mount Sinai, the mountain of God, where I first saw the fiery bush and heard the voice of the deity. When I returned, Yahweh spoke to me again and gave me 10 mandates of law, 10 lights with which my people would manifest a stable and just community. As a society that tried to emulate divinity, we organized ourselves into 12 tribes. From the word of Yahweh came forth the manifestation of a new civilization. I led my people to the new land of promise. Yet when my God decreed that I not enter into the new land with my people, I did as the Spirit commanded. The children of Israel never saw me again. I left the world of matter, and I now roam the wilderness, once more helping travelers make their way up the path through the darkness to the light. You listen to Moshe's story intently. Suddenly, the old hermit puts his hand up to stop you in your tracks. Be quiet. Straining your eyes to see what the problem is, you observe a very large serpent crossing the path in front of you. The beams of light from the hermit's lamp seem to attract the snake, which you recognize as a death adder, fat and venomous. Moshe raises his staff and yells something in a language that you don't recognize. He throws the staff down on the ground and you watch the staff transform into Uraeus, a cobra. The cobra rears its hooded head and strikes at the death adder, which recoils, hissing its displeasure. The Uraeus attacks the other snake, and the other two animals spiral around each other in a serpentine wrestling match. When the two serpents break off, the adder sees an opening and makes its escape. Quickly slithering off the side of the road, then the victorious cobra straightens its body out and becomes as stiff as a board. Your companion bends down to retrieve his staff. The power of the serpent is very potent, Moshe tells you. It must be used wisely and with caution. Many an unvigilant traveler has been burned by the snake's venom. You continue up the path. The black clouds of night recede slightly, giving you a splendid view of the stars. The trail leads to the foot of the mountain, and you wonder if this is indeed the mountain where Moshe heard the voice of Yahweh emanating from the flaming tree. Moshe points his staff skyward to a point of light in the heaven. A ray of his lantern shines upward in the direction of the planet Jupiter. That is Sadik, Moshe informs you. It means the righteous or holy one. It is an image of the sphere at the end of this path. One who truly reaches the conclusion of this path might well be called a Sadik or holy person. But a true Tzaddik would never claim to be such. I brought my people out of Egypt, but it was never because of my own power or knowledge. It was because of a merciful and forgiving God who gave me a second chance. Any gifts or strength I might appear to have solely come from the Most High. So I have always striven to emulate God, be forgiving to others, lending a helping hand to travelers in need. All I ask in return is that you do likewise. As you look up into the night sky filled with majestic panorama of stars and worlds and galaxies, a familiar prayer comes to your lips. Unto thee, soul wise, soul eternal, and soul merciful one, be the praise and glory forever who hath permitted me, who now standeth humbly before thee, to enter thus far into the sanctuary of mystery. Not unto me, Adonai, but unto thy name be the glory. Let the influence of thy divine ones descend on my head and teach me the value of self-sacrifice so that I shrink not in the hour of trial, but that thus my name may be written on high, and my genius stand in the presence of the Holy One. In that hour when the Son of Man is invoked before the Lord of Spirits, in his name before the Ancient of Days. We'll spend a small amount of time communing with Moshe. Perhaps you have a personal lesson that needs to be transmitted right now. Maybe you'll be shown a symbol, a number, a sign, a glyph. Ask for it. Moshe seems pleased. His work is done for now. He bids you farewell, and he turns to the mountain, but not before giving you his lantern for your return trip home. You begin your descent after watching the hermit dissolve into the base of the mountain, where you see him last standing. You see a tree that seems to be on fire. It burns brightly for a moment before disappearing. On your journey down, as you carry your light, the lantern seems to be absorbed through your hand and down into your chest, and is now radiating from you. Remembering we are our own Savior. Remembering we contain that light. Take this light into your world. Be the light for others. Be the light for yourself. Your journey on the 20th Path of Yod has reached completion. You return to the Temple of Tifereth, where you are greeted by the Archangel Raphael. You quickly descend down the path of Samek to Yesod. From there, you continue down the path of Tal to the Temple of Melkuth. Sandalphon again greets you and secures the portal of Tal, giving the sign, the projection sign. You receive the sign of silence. Once through the door of the Temple of Melkuth, you seal your own self with the sign of silence. And we'll do just a quick banishing of Kakadamenos, Apopantos Kakadamenos, just to separate the two events. If you'd like to join, feel free. Just press the forefinger into the lips and exhale fully. Inhale fully, and when you exhale, Apopantos Kakadamenos. Apopantos Kakadamenos. All right, and that is it for today, folks. As far as that goes.
Take your time coming back. All of those out on the YouTubes, thank you for joining us. If you like this content and want to see more, please like the video. All right, take care. Love is the law. Love under love.